Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rakakadash. Double honor, Zales and Apostles of Great Millstone who are teaching this truth in sincerity. And shout out to Akims out there in the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Rocket the Yahweh, Rocket the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rakakadash, Rakatum. So, out here another week prophesying the downfall of Babylon the Great, America in the scriptures, and, well, like that old Ice-T song goes, on with the body count. Yeah. The allies of Babylon the Great are telling Iran exactly where the U.S. military positions are. Why? Because these other countries have been asking time and time again for the U.S. to get their troops out of their country. And no, because that goes against the Greater Israel Project. This has nothing to do with America first. This has nothing to do with making America great again, even though those are the things that Donald Trump, your failed leader, has told you, right? That, he's going to do all these great things. Yeah, for the Greater Israel Project. Everything's greater for Israel, but not for America, not for the economy, not even for the world economy, right? Because like everything else, though, the Bab el Strait over there in the Red Sea, that strait, where the Suez Canal, all that is about to be cut off. Yeah, another strait's about to be closed. So like everything else, though, global oil prices are sending everything into chaos. As you know that the global stockpile, global world oil supply, is depleted. It's not there anymore due to this. So, this is where it's going to usher in the MOTB, and they're going to mandate it very shortly, because out of all this, order out of chaos, well, you have the crisis now, worldwide oil crisis, which is just going to lead to everything else, like we've been telling you. And just like, before, there's going to be more of a body count. And the morale is already low among the troops anyways, but they see this. They see everything because, Trump can't lie anymore. He's found out he's hiding. He's actually hiding from the press as much as he can. Or he's talking about other things like his bullshit speech last week. Talking about other things that doesn't even matter. They want to know about what happened to the base in Jordan. Which basically what had happened is the Jordanians, because Iran thanked them for it, Jordanians, both militarily and the citizens of Jordan, told Iran where the positions were. So guess what, though? That's the way all the countries feel. Iraq, Syria, because Al Tanf base in Syria, that illegal base that's been there all along, which was responsible for many of the incursions against Bashar al-Assad, well, guess what? That got hit too. Yeah. Iran has been fighting this war for a very, very long time. They know where everything is. And like everything else, though, they know that the only threat to anything is the Israeli state and the U.S., And if they won't move their troops out, Iran's going to move them forcibly, ultimately by destroying them, destroying everything. So they're getting wiped out. Well, of course, the U.S. is going after IRGC headquarters, bombing more and more salination plants, trying to bomb nuclear plants, And this is just escalating to a far beyond war, which we told you. The Third World War cometh quickly. As Colonel McGregor goes into, which he's an expert, so is Scott Ritter. But I believe this one's Colonel McGregor. Let me make sure.
Everyone acts as though everything that's happening is the fault of Iran.
I think it's Scott Ritter.
Iran did not begin this war, and you'll get a response, but they started this war 47 years ago. Well, that's not really true. We decided that whatever they proposed, whatever they stood for, whatever they wanted was somehow or another bad. And so we bankrolled Mr. Saddam Hussein, president of Iraq, with huge amounts of money. We bankrolled him to go to war with Iran in the hopes
8 years,
Iran was
using chemical war weapons.
Most of its senior military leadership was gone. Its equipment was old. And that the Iraqis, with our brilliant advice, remember, keep that in mind, our brilliant military advice, once again, would enable the Iraqis to rapidly overrun Iran's oil fields. And the big bonus at that point was that the people living in Iran in those areas were mostly Arabs. And so we said Arab nationalism will triumph, and Arab nationalism will bring down Iran. Does that sound familiar? Ultimately, it didn't work. In fact, the Arabs in Khuzestan, who mostly are Shiites, not all, but mostly, all decided that their citizenship and their presence inside Iran was much more important to them than signing away their lives to Saddam Hussein. The whole thing failed. We think somewhere between 500 and 800,000 casualties on the Iranian side. How many died? Certainly, somewhere between 300,000 and 500,000 Iranians died. They fought tenaciously, and ultimately the war ended with Iran in control of its own oil resources, which was what was most important. They hurled rockets and missiles at each other. None of us really paid a great deal of attention to it. We only looked at what Saddam did. But again, the Iranians learned a lot from that. So here we sit right now. We keep arguing that somehow or another Iran makes us uncomfortable, presents this tremendous threat, and that if we don't destroy Iran and bring it under control, that millions of terrorists will overrun the world and so forth. It's all nonsense. Who wants this? This is an Israeli proposition. This is an Israeli agenda. And the Israeli agenda is underwritten by billionaires in the United States who bought President Trump the White House. Least they can do after they bought Congress for their own purposes. Might as well buy the White House as well. They own everything. So they own everything right now. And what do you get? You get Marco Rubio. You get Pete Hegseth. You get Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and everybody else that is built to the bitter end to the Israeli agenda. And anybody thinks otherwise is wrong. If you were not an Israel first person, you aren't going to get a job in the administration. Yeah. It's unapologetic. So we're stuck because we took on a war without really understanding what we were doing. You know, one of the first things you need to do is say, well, wait a minute, we're going to go into Iran, right? And so he says, well, we want to bomb it. Okay. What do you want to bomb? Well, we're going to bomb their nuclear facilities. We're going to bomb this. And then pretty soon the target list goes from 10 critical things out to 1,000. And, oh, well, those targets are destroyed. What do we do now? Well, we'll find more targets. That's kind of where we are. And then somebody brings up, well, what about ground forces?
So there you go. All leading towards the ground war, which they're planning to invade Karg Island very soon, right? So like everything else, morale's very low among the troops because they're seeing that, if their positions are compromised in these places, right, then they know that they're just nothing more than cannon fodder. Because we're going to combine, Israeli defense forces along with the U.S. forces, meaning that the U.S. just does everything. Israelis don't have to send any troops at all. So the U.S. is fighting their war. Once again, the Greater Israel Project, and it's quite obvious who this king of Babylon serves. He doesn't even serve the people of Babylon. No, he serves the Greater Israel Project. The least of flock shall draw them out, shall make their habitations desolate with them, right? So we're going to see a lot longer of a body count. The body count's just going to keep on getting bigger and bigger, and they're not going to even tell you. They only tell you that 4 soldiers got killed. It's way more than just 4 soldiers that got killed in Jordan. The body count hasn't even been counted yet because what about those unidentified? What about those that they can't even find that are missing, right? The missing. Over 500 missing or injured critically? Yeah. And that's just what they are leaking. It's a lot worse because guess what, though? The coming days is going to get even more bloody, right? Because the days of vengeance are at hand. The Most High spoke of these things, right? Before Yahushua turns, the days of vengeance would be at hand, right? And we're already there. And we got betrayals, right? Hey, the greatest betrayal of all was what happened to Yahushua when Judas Iscariot had sold him out, right? Well, people are going to sell us out. It's happened. You got agents within our camps. You got agents hiding among us, that watching our every move. Hey, they want to implant everybody with a tracking device to track their every move. And like everything else, though, this place has a date with death. Better known as a lake of fire. America is that lake of fire that's spoken of in the scriptures. And we were the first to tell you that, right? That it's not this place of eternal hell and damnation, but it's a place of our hell, because hell is more of a devastation than anything else. It's not an eternal place, but rather it's a place that you are at, it's a condition that you're in. So that's a place that you're at, a place that you're in. Well, we've been under that for quite some time. This place is pure hell. Pretty much so. Yeah, every dollar you make, where does it go? It goes to tax revenues and it goes to the government. Doesn't benefit you in any way because they fucking own everything, right? You don't own your home. Yeah, you can claim ownership on it, but you still got to pay the city. You still got to be approved by the government, and like everything else, they could just say, oh, well, you still owe back taxes, so guess what? We're going to foreclose on your home. Just like that. You don't own anything. You'll own nothing and be happy. That's what Klaus Schwab has said, right? Very proud Edomite. Amalek, if that. So like everything else, the bankers, better known as Amalek, is foreclosing on everybody. America's being foreclosed on. You see? This merging military thing just basically means that the U.S. have to die for the Israelis. Ultimately, at the end of the day. And most don't want to fight for the Israelis. Everybody knows that who started the war? That doesn't look good. They know that Iran is winning the war. No matter how many of those fox parrots you have out there that thinks that the war is going good, the truth is very overwhelming. And that's just it. They can't hide it anymore. The casualties are even greater, that even Fox News has to talk about it too. It's like, well, if we destroyed all those weapons, you know, they're asking the questions, right? If we destroyed all their weapons, all their Navy and all their Air Force, then how are they, and all their missiles, you know, most of their missiles, then how are they still hitting back? You know, they can't even wrap their heads around it, right? So they have to ask the hard-hitting questions because, like everything else, so Iran has won the war. Iran is winning the war. And like everything else, though, you know, for whatever Iran loses, Russia's already going to resupply them. You see, the supply routes aren't cut off from Iran, even though they think that, okay, well, yeah, if we take out Qashm Island, we could go into Iran, or where the Bandar Abbas, you know, that's the area that they've been hitting lately. They think, okay, well, we'll take out all the bridges and all these other things. We'll hit their water salination plants. We'll just make it really hard for them. Well, how's that work? Well, they retaliated against Kuwait, where most of the attacks were coming from. It totally took out their water salination plants. So you see, you know, the place is just pretty much, though, it's growing darker by the day. And, you know, you got a lot of things taking place around here, right? You know, uprisings. You know, Trump is being booed almost everywhere he goes, you know, as of late, you know. That's why a lot of his things are pre-recorded and there's no audience anymore. Like that stupid speech last week, there wasn't even an audience there. And his press briefings are so small that, you know, because everybody's booing him. Why? Because they know that he started this war. And they know that he doesn't have an exit plan. It don't look good, you know. The economy is shot to hell. They're out of fuel supplies. And everybody knows that Trump started the war, you know, for King Bibi, you know. But Trump is getting the bigger blame than King Bibi is. Why? Because, well, you're here in Babylon for one, right? King Bibi. You know, a lot of people don't see him as the ruler of Babylon, right? They see him as the prime minister of the Israeli state, but yet they still see that Trump is controlled by him, you know. And they're like, well, when are you going to be with us, you know? He's never been with you. He's always with them. And so these idiots still think that, oh, well, we'll just get them in the elections, right? The so-called, you know, elections, which is just a joke. You know, AIPAC already controls the elections. They control everything. You know, they have a club and you ain't in it. You know, Carlin was famous for saying those words. So it's just very, very interesting, the times that we're in, right? You know? And so we know that the days of vengeance are at hand, right? You know? And also we know there's going to be more betrayal, right? You know, people are going to be handing us over. And, you know, as more and more chaos erupts, it's going to be unsafe to enter any cities, right? You know, there's going to be uprisings. Nobody regards the king of Babylon right now. They boo him everywhere he goes, man. He is shamed very publicly, right? Esau cannot hide himself. The least of the flock drawing him out into this war that just goes on and on. Oh yeah, we're gonna hit them harder like never before. The likes of which they've never seen before. Oh, for every soldier there, we're gonna hit them 100 times harder. Well, your bluff is being called every time because guess what? Your allies are telling them where your positions are. They're like, hey man, they're over here. You know, so the only thing you can do is play back to the Israeli state and Saudi Arabia, and that's what's happening though. Because Jordan was one of those bigger bases, but guess what? The Jordanian people and the military don't want you there anymore. They're tired of you over there. And eventually Saudi Arabia is going to turn against you too. But for right now, you know, because, you know, you promise great things, that's the only reason why they're with you. But they're going to turn on you too. When they can't sell their oil, when their oil doesn't move, guess who they're going to be with? They're going to be with Iran. So, and Magog already has a plan for that. Because you got to remember, Saudi Arabia is a BRICS member, so is United Arab Emirates and Qatar. So these BRICS member states, who do you think they're going to side with? Russia, right? So it's happening. The Battle of Armageddon, the mountain of troops, is happening. You know, which the 4 angels that are bound in the great river Euphrates, are preparing for the kings of the east, right? Loose the angels that are bound in the great river Euphrates. You know, it tells you that in Revelation 16, so we're just going to go ahead and get that. That way I'm not misquoting anything, you know. Because yes, we paraphrase a lot of scriptures, but then we go straight to the source. So that way we're not just paraphrasing, we're reading it straight from the source. You know, precept upon precept, right? Ad. There's an ad there, you know, so yeah, like everything else, so Esau's got to put his fucking ads whenever you try to do something. Salakia for that. And it doesn't take much, right? Because you've got a phone that is free. It ain't really free because, you know, they have their adware on it. But nonetheless, though, Revelation chapter 16. Revelation chapter 16 and verse 12. And it reads, Salakia, I'm trying to get away from this sun glare. If I can. Nope. Revelation chapter 16, verse 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates. Well, where's that? Syria and Iraq, right? And the water thereof was dried up, so that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. So, like everything else, so, you know, east, you know, aka, you know, all the kings of Arabia, you could say, you know, and the kings of Persia are all getting ready and prepared to fight this war. And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon and out of the mouth of the beast and out of the mouth of the false prophet, aka Esau Edom, you know, who controls all those things. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to the battle of that great day of Yahweh Almighty. You know, so talking about the Edomites, right? Because they're getting ready to fight against the Most High. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. So in other words, you got to be in this, right? You know, you got to be grounded in this. You know, because otherwise you ain't got a clue what's going on, man. You're lost. And he gathered them together into a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, which is the mountain of troops. Where's that mountain of troops? There, right there in the valley of Jehoshaphat. You know, like the old saying goes, jump in Jehoshaphat. Yeah, that's the valley. That valley's right there in what Esau calls the Persian Gulf, West Asia. You know, and so this huge battle is being fought. It's being prepared, right? And so, you know, we know that you're automatically drafted as of November. They're probably already automatically drafting people, but, you know, they're going door to door, grabbing people up to fight this war. And they know that they're never coming back again. Runaway train, never coming back. You know, because, again, you know, they've been so compromised that everybody knows where their positions are. You know, and even if the citizens ain't there, pretty much, though, their plans have been foiled. They already know what they're up to before, and they're able to hit back harder. So it's a lot more game changers that happen. You know, the hammer of the whole earth. Well, what's going to happen when you keep on hammering, right? Eventually that hammer's going to break. So Esau, Edom, Babylon the Great, is being cut asunder, as it told us in Jeremiah chapter 50, that Babylon would be cut asunder, meaning that it will not have the force like it used to, right? Because now all of its allies are just pretty much telling them they're telling Iran where to hit, you know. And it's funny to watch because, like everything else, though, these people think that their kingdom's going to last forever, and it isn't. It has a due date, but they don't want to hear about that, you know. Well, no, I mean, who wants to hear that their kingdom is coming to an end, right? These devils think that their kingdom was going to last forever, and guess what? They have a due date, you know, and they're past their due date. The 250-year mark is when all empires should come to an end. So Esau, Edom, Babylon the Great is coming to its end, you know, and they're stuck in a war that they can't get out of because the least of the flock, Amalek, dragged them into this war. It's not for America first. It's not America first at all. It's Israel first. The Israeli state, these people don't want to fight for Israel. They're just trying to get the main one. Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 22, and it reads, "A sound of battle is in the land. of great destruction. So great destruction is coming to this place, right? You know, cannon fodder. That's pretty much what they are. The Most High hath opened his armories and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation. Ultimately, this place ends in nuclear destruction. Hypersonic missiles, which are being used now, but eventually going to have nuclear warheads. For this is the work of the Lord of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. So like everything else, though, this place has a due date, and it's never going to be inhabited again. It's pretty much going to become the lake of fire. You know, come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. You know, all of this is going to be destroyed. It has a due date. All of its armies are going to be destroyed right there in that valley too. Slay all her bullocks, let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day has come, the time of their visitation. So, like everything else though, verse 29, call together the archers against Babylon, all you that bend to the bow, come against it round about. Let none of them escape. Recompense her according to her works, according to all that she has done, for she hath been proud against the Most High, against the Holy One of Yashala. So, like everything else, though, you know, proud against the Most High. Well, did Donald Trump not paint himself as Cesare Borgia earlier this year during the so-called Easter? Yeah, he portrayed himself as that. So how more blasphemous is that, right? You know, he's saying, I am like unto God. You know, I'm your God now. I'm your king. You know, so guess what? Esau's being cast down, and everything about Trump, man, you know, is being found out. Everybody knows that he's a pedophile. I mean, that's been out for quite some time. They're just trying to hide it. That's why they call it Operation Epstein Fury, which is a nickname. And they're just mocking him everywhere he goes. You know, Iran just recently said this. He says, get ready, you're fired. You know, they said it right back to him, taunting words against him. You know, IRGC, somebody in the IRGC said, get ready, your favorite saying, you're fired. Yeah. And most of the people here would like to see him impeached. They tried to impeach him in the first term. How much more do they want him gone now? You see, time is coming where they shall not regard their kings or princes, and the course of action shall stand in their power. Civil uprisings will happen. Kingdom against kingdom. You know, uprisings, you know, and we're just at the beginning of these things. So like everything else, though, a great famine is coming. A famine of the word, famine of not hearing, but also, pretty much though, all of its resources is going to be gone. And they're going to pretty much regulate everything. And you're going to have to receive a chip in order to get anything from the universal basic income, to have any access to anything. That's all about to come to naught. So everything that you've taken advantage of, well, it ain't going to be there anymore. It's not going to be resourceful. The government's going to run the grocery stores, pretty much so. Everything's going to be government regulated. And you're going to have a chip in order to be able to commerce, in order to be able to buy and sell. And if you refuse it, well, they got guillotines for it. They got all kinds of things. Plus, you're just going to be castrated. You're not going to be able to get anywhere and do anything. So that hour of temptation is coming that we've warned you about. The MOTB is the RFID mandate that will happen. And it's coming a lot more soon than you think it is. You know, the Genius Act and all those things have already been in power. And guess what? Anything that can regulate the Genius Act, well, guess what? That's all up. So when they bring it, and they will, you know, through this chaos that they've caused, well, you heard it first here, right? You'll know a true prophet's been among you, because we've been warning you about these things day in and day out, you know. So get ready, get prepared, because things are going to continue to escalate, and it's going to be more body count. There's going to be more shutdowns, because they're going to have to shut down all the fuel so that way they can supply the military, because that's what those reserves are for. Get ready to not have gas. Get ready for your power to be cut, because they're going to roll blackouts. A lot of shit's about to happen. So hopefully this has all been edifying. For that I want to say Barak of the Yahweh, Barak of the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rekakadash, Wa Abba Babal. Brakatam, Jehovah Elect. Shalom.